Okay, so we hear a lot about the cabal, the deep state, and we hear a lot about how, the takedown is imminent, and there's, these things are going to change soon, and, really there's an antidote coming to the deep state, and that's, that's Q, and that's, this whole movement of what's happening. Including Trump and the people that he's working with. This is the story that's been going around, and we've covered this. We do believe that there are elements to this that are absolutely true, but there's some nuances that are really important to touch on that I think bring together the consciousness aspect of this that is often so overlooked, and that as well, I believe, gets us caught up in viewing things in quite an extreme manner. So let's get into this a little bit. If we were to really look at what the antidote, quote unquote, is to the cabal, we have to look at first why the cabal is in place to begin with. The reason why the cabal is in place to begin with is because we, as a society, as a collective, when we're talking about collective consciousness, are unaware of their existence in a lot of ways, and we're unconscious in our state of being, which causes and allows them to not only manipulate, to have control, for people to not see what's going on, but it allows them to just ultimately exist, right? It's sort of like their overall purpose in our evolution as a collective consciousness, in our evolution as people, their purpose is not done with until we're done learning from what's going on there. Now, what exactly does that mean? What exactly does that look like? How does this all play into it? How does the Q stuff play into it? What's going on with this? Well, one of the things that I'm finding a little bit troubling about some of the Q stuff is it's a similar, we're starting to treat it in the same way we treat any other savior. We view this thing that's coming in or this thing that's happening as an all-saving device. And the challenge with this is it stops and pulls the empowerment, it pulls the onus away from us as individuals to actually affect the overall collective consciousness by doing our work to get to a point where we are no longer contributing with battery, like we're battery powering the system. We think that by just knowing what's going on with Q, that suddenly it's like, oh, we've pulled our battery power out of the system, we're no longer fueling that system, therefore it's going to fall. That is a piece to the puzzle. The true antidote to the cabal, to pulling down the deep state, to truly shifting this, is us to legitimately take the batteries, just like in the Matrix. We see the battery analogy when Morpheus talks about, hey, we're a battery for the elite and this whole system in the Matrix, right? To put that into real life terms and what that looks like, we are fueling what goes on in the world based on our individual consciousness, which affects an overall collective consciousness. We've talked about this in great detail in another video, Exploring Collective Consciousness. We'll link that below. But ultimately, we cannot look at a lot of these situations without bringing in the deeper aspect, which is scientifically proven. We understand through science how collective consciousness works. We understand through science how our individual consciousness affects our space around us, our overall environment. We understand that the antidote to the cabal through science and through our own intuitive understanding is consciousness. That's the huge aspect of this entire thing. So when we produce media that's talking about this Q situation, that's talking about the cabal, it's talking about the deep state, we have to bring in the consciousness point of view. Otherwise, we're only talking about a piece of the puzzle. Now, how does the battery analogy fit into this whole thing? Well, so let's say we're into the Q phenomenon and we're researching that and we're looking into it and we're getting behind it and we're thinking that Trump is, a huge part of that, and we view perhaps Trump and Q as a savior. A lot of people are doing this. While there is some truth from a logical point of view that this Q stuff is happening and that Trump may be, playing a part of that, and that there's other white hats within institutions that are coming forward and saying, hey, we're blowing the whistle on this, or we're working from the inside to help create change, right, in our world, so that it's not, done through policy like we keep asking for, but that's really not what's going to change things. But, we look at that and we say, okay, this is happening, but we're being extreme about it. Right? It becomes Trump is the savior, Q is the savior. And that begins to leave the batteries in the system. Because the system that is in place, the cabal, is based on a system of collective disempowerment. We are not going to have saviors come forward and do all the work for us and make all of this happen. There are pieces to the puzzle that will take place, but we as a collective are crucial in this overall game and system and what's taking place based on the consciousness, based on our emotions, based on what we're feeling, based on what we're believing, what we're seeing, and what we're doing to keep our world in place. From a very basic point of view, it's if we see that, oh, okay, you know, Q is coming in to do it and they're going to save everything, our entire focus in life turns from you have Q versus the deep state in an us versus them war, which is the same old consciousness stuff that we've always dealt with. Now it's a fight back and forth. We're fighting. And not only that, then we get into the emotions of like, oh my God, you know, these people are all stupid and these people are this. And you see the battles going on all over the place. Q followers fighting with mainstream people, you're sheeple, this, and all this stuff goes back and forth. And this reveals how we're still deeply powering this system. This system is powered off of our unconsciousness. Knowing what's taking place in the world is a piece to the puzzle. Our individual consciousness and how we perceive that and how we act and how we live and how we be is the other piece to the puzzle. This is why conscious media is so important, because it marries both. This is what we've been doing at CE here. We take both aspects and bring them together because they have to be brought together. That is the only way we understand our world, and that's the only way we create change, is by seeing what's taking place and applying the deeper aspects, the deeper consciousness understandings to it. Pulling out the polarity that we have, the us versus them. When we start talking about consciousness as it relates to this whole phenomenon, whether it's Q, whether it's how we take down the cabal, we got to start getting back to infinite potential. In the conscious community and the spiritual community, there's so much work that's done that looks at, you know, what it means to be an infinite potential. However, that's tied specifically to how you can gain riches, how you can live the life that you want. But that's not entirely what this is for and how we can use these understandings in an individual and collective manner. Understanding that being pure potential as a person, understanding that you're capable of doing whatever you want and living and practicing that state of being isn't just to maintain your list of goals and to get the Ferrari or get the, you know, that's not really what that's for. What it's for is getting back into a state of being where we're operating from the heart. We're operating from a place where the cabal and the deep state have no role. They don't have to be there anymore because we've achieved a state of being, a state of consciousness where they're no longer part of the game. It's that simple. So let's look at how we can marry, again, current events and what's going on in the world, our conscious and collective understandings of what's happening in this spiritual space and how it's all one and the same. And let's start looking at how when we get back into infinite potential, not defining ourselves by what side we're on, by what political belief that we're in, by, you know, what we think needs to happen and what battle needs to go on. When we stop defining everything that way, we get into a position where we actually live from a place of a new potential, where we can look at what's going on in the world and we can start saying, yeah, I can see that it's possible that we're going to go through and we're going to create this type of world because I'm actually living and being it. And I'm not filtering everything through the left-right dynamic, through the cabal versus, you know, the other people and all this stuff. We actually start getting into a place where we're practicing the very state of being that pulls the power away, that takes the batteries out of this system. So yes, let's explore the truth of what's happening in the world, but let's allow it to also move through us in a way where we can share this information, we can be at peace with it, we can share it from a non-polarized point of view. When we talked about Q, we didn't talk about Q where it's like, oh my God, we're suddenly saving America, Trump is coming in to do. That's all ego stuff. That's all getting back into the state of we're trying to make America great again. It's about us, it's about this, it's about the savior, blah, blah, blah. And yes, it's emotionally, it riles you up when you put the music to it and all that sort of stuff, but is it actually what we want to create moving forward? Is that the pure potential that we understand when we really feel within ourselves? Is that the pure potential that exists? So again, when we can't look at this world without marrying it all together, in my view, and get a true understanding. We call ourselves awake, but what are we really awake to? Are we awake to some things that are happening in the world? Or are we truly awake to who we truly are? the role that we play in this system, the role the Cabal plays within this world, and how we can truly change it. Because in my view, it's time to wake up to that. And in order to do that, we got to start actually looking at ourselves here and stop focusing entirely. We can focus some, but not entirely on out there, these people are doing it all, these people, it's this, the savior, savior, savior. It's about us, and it's about us doing the work to consciously shift this planet and this world. That's all.